Okay, so hello, hola, welcome. This is our first success stories hosted by Confidently Creative. And today, as a guest, we have Mario Ferrer, the content designer, and we're going to discuss about nurturing a beginner's mind. So a little bit of introductions for those who don't know me or Confidently Creative. My name is Hana Gausfain. I'm a freelance content designer and UX project manager. I'm also a mentor, and I'm the founder of Confidently Creative, and which is an online community for entrepreneurs and creative professionals, which aims to be a nurturing, creatively stimulating hub, somewhere to tap into your own potential, follow your calling, and connect with an awesome supportive community. I can see some members of the community here, which is very excited. For those who don't know what we do, it's a little bit a description of what we do. We have a monthly newsletter where we share thoughts and creative challenge. It's an opportunity for self-reflection. We also have masterminds where you can connect with other members, you can set goals, follow up, share feedback, gain accountability. We do that one a month as well. We have success stories. This is the first one where we meet with experts in the creative field. And we're also going to have workshops. But I think enough about me and Confidently Creative. I guess you're here to listen to Mario. I think I met Mario, I don't know how long ago, but many years ago. I think in the next slide we have his profile. It's funny because I'm from Barcelona, but I'm in Mexico now. I'm in Oaxaca, and he's from Guadalajara, Mexico, and he's in Barcelona. So we just exchanged places. He currently works as a staff content designer. He also teaches in some universities and has an introduction to UX writing on Domestika, and he's also the founder of Content Design España, which is a Slack community. If you are in Spain, I recommend to be part of it. And he says that he's always trying to find the best tacos in town, so please share the tips, because whenever I go to Barcelona, I want to know. He loves to listen to stand-up comedy and teaching his kids about Mexican lucha libre. If you haven't been, I highly recommend attending to one of those events. So thank you so much, Mario, for being here. I don't know if I'm missing anything important.
No, that's pretty much it. Let me just stop sharing my screen so you can see me full on. Cool. First of all, thank you, Hana, and thank you, Confidentially Creative, for having me over. It's an honor to kick off this year with the success stories, and it's so good to see like Hana was saying, some familiar faces and some new faces. So let's hope this is some sort of like exchanging of what I've learned throughout the years, and like this is not a swearing conference, right? So I'll try to keep it PG, and all the mistakes that I've made. So you can hopefully benefit from that. So yeah, so thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Very excited to have you here. I guess the first question is, what is a staff content designer? What do you do?
Okay, so a staff content designer is the equivalent to a lead content designer. Depends on like the companies you're at. It's just the way that we do it at the company I currently work at is when you reach like senior level, then you have either the management track, which you just become a UX manager, or you stay on, which is my case, we call it a crafter track, which is either staff and then senior staff. So basically, my role has changed over the past few years because I used to lead a team of, we were up to like 9 content designers, but more from the craft perspective. So I wasn't like their day-to-day people manager. I was sort of like a link between their manager, who used to be or normally was someone more on like the wider UX or like visual design craft, and try to like help them understand what was the best way to work with content designers, because we figured out with my previous team that some of the folks over at management had either not worked with a content designer or had not really managed a content designer before, because shifts within the company in the past, content designers used to report to other content designers. So that's fairly simple, because like nothing's simple in this life, I know. but like you get the whole context. But when you have to go across crafts, there's always this nuances and like these things that you might not quite get. So the role there for me, at least the way I saw it, and I think that helped us out a lot, is sort of like building those bridges, right, into like helping management understand what an actual content designer can do, and like, and then on an individual level, like what were the skills and or what were the places that are the opportunities to grow for each of the content designers in our team. Now, I've switched over to like a smaller team where I get I think it's a privilege to actually like really go deep down into like UX problems, because in the past in my career, I've never had the chance, because working over here in Europe, most of the teams are very, very small. So it's either a team of one, which it was most of my cases, and then I did go over to like teams of 5 and 6. So that kind of like gave me an idea of several things, but I've never had the luxury of just like work on like 1 or 2 projects per sprint. So that's beautiful. It's completely different. And when you are at a staff level, what one of the things that's also responsibility is like figuring out how to align better with like other crafts. And by that, I mean like engineering, product management, sometimes legal, marketing, to make sure that the perspective from content design and UX are both integrated into whatever it is that we're designing for our end users or for the people on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, because one thing that I've seen in my career as well is that when designers reach a certain level and they're into management, they don't design anymore and they really miss it. And it's really a shame, because they're the ones with the most experience and the ones that could bring more to the design team. And also being a content designer, what I can see is that we are really the link between different teams, with legal, with marketing, with research, with engineering as well. So yeah, I think it's great to be able to understand other teams and speak their language as well. So seems like you're enjoying it right now, which is great.
I am, and also it's the opportunity, right? Because like there's folks that they come to a point where they want, if you want to keep advancing in your career, you have to go into like the management track. And I've had the opportunity to meet folks that like that was not their jam, but they were forced by their company or forced by their situations or context to go into like people management track. And that just sometimes it makes them unhappy, but sometimes they're not suited for the job, because if you what like you said, right, if you what you enjoy is actually like the crafting of those experiences, then the people management is a completely different ballpark, and it's very tough, because in the end it's your responsibility that the folks under you can actually shine, right? So it also takes a lot of changing the mindset of like, how do I provide impact for the business, and how do I like actually step in to be like the voice of the user, or the voice of the other of folks on the other side of the screen. I'm trying to like take away the word user because I hate it, but I can't find something better or sure than people on the other side of the screen. So if you have anything, please let me know, because I'm on that quest to find something that's a better word than user, because I find user is very wishy-washy. Yeah, so it's when you're changing, right? It's the change of mindset of like, it's not about what I do or how I do it. It's more about like how I empower the folks I work with to do the best that they can do. And that can take many shapes and many forms. It can make helping them out prioritize. It can be like making sure that they're actually focusing on what they have to focus. It means taking them away from projects if it's been too much. Figuring out also like the human side of it, right? Because I feel that when you reach a point in your career that you're responsible for other folks, even though we're all adults here, is like with time, you get this knowledge, or like you get this 6th or 7th sense, whatever we want to call it, of like when someone's not doing well, or when someone's not happy, or when someone's not jiving with the team they are. And that's also very important, because like, let's not forget, we spend a lot of hours per day, per week, per year with the folks we work with. So the better we can make, or the better we can create that that sense of belonging, and that sense that what I'm doing makes sense, but I'm also feeling safe, and I'm also feeling secure, and I'm not like pushed into something that's not going to make me feel comfortable, the better, because you'll have happy people, you'll have people that'll be able to perform at their best, because they'll be at a state of flow or a state of mind that allows them to do so.
Interesting. So maybe trying to go a little bit deeper, what you say, sense of flow, and also the topic of this talk, no? How do you define and embody this concept of beginner's mind in your creative journey? So in your day-to-day, when you have so much experience, when you reached a level where you are managing a team, how do you keep still with, how do you tune in and connect with fresh ideas or see things as if it was the first time?
I think for me, it's a humbling experience working with other people or leading other people, because the first thing you realize is like you don't have the context of everything. So there's a lot that you need to understand, and there's lots that you need to ask. And for me, I think the main, or what at least what helps me keep that is like I'm like super curious. So I'm always asking all of the questions all of the time, because I don't like assuming what's happening or what's the information that I don't have. So this whole concept of beginner's mind, I think it's very interesting. And you and I, Hannah, were talking about this. Is like the first time I heard it, it was like I don't quite get what this is, but it was when I was going through this like personal process, and I started like meditating and understanding that sometimes, even though if you do things a bazillion times, if you stop and you actually look at them and you realize like, there's this other thing that I haven't noticed. And it just like with very, very, very basic things is like the route you take to like work or to like your friend's house or to your family's house. If one day you try a different route, you're still going from point A to point B, but you're taking a different approach. And that's basically like a very simple example of for me what beginner's mind is, right? Because we have this our own trap, and like our brains work that way. We automate as much as we can, so we don't have to think about it. The problem is when you automate, you don't think about it, and also don't connect with it from like a human side also. So for me, it's very important that when I'm designing or at work, or even when like I'm spending time with my friends and family, or when I'm doing things that are like for me, for my mental sanity, is that I try to take a step back and like actually look at the thing as like, what is it that I'm actually doing? But not in a like I need to accomplish a goal, but it's like, what do I want to get out from this, and how this situation, or how this project, or how this thing that I'm doing can also benefit the people that are around me, right? Because I've come to realize that, especially in the domain of like UX design or product design, we're always talking and about empathy, right? About this empathy that we must have, or that we should have, with the folks on the other side of the screen. But what happens is like I rarely hear about the empathy that we should have with the folks that we design with, not just for the folks that we design for. So having that beginner's mind is like always being curious, always asking questions, helps me to make sure that I'm trying to like cover all of the angles, right? Because a potential solution that you can actually ship to people is always way richer when you take into account different perspectives, different ways of seeing the world. And that's just not like from craft to craft, but that also comes from like person to person. It comes from like culture to culture, country to country, even language to language. And just, I'm not saying that we should like design by committee. I'm just saying like we should be open to listening to other folks, and then making decisions based on as much information that you have. Does that make any sense? Like, if it doesn't make sense, folks just go like that, and like we'll try it again.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I like what you said about empathy towards the people we work with, and as I think that's something that we should always have, this curiosity of not assuming things, not just for the user or about this work, but for the people we work with as well, and even our managers or our clients, etc. So I'm hearing something. Is it you, Mario, that they have some music in the background?
Let me see. Yeah, give me 1 sec.
That's what happens when you have children, I guess.
Yeah, when he's watching cartoons.
Caricaturas, as
We
we
good.
say.
Thank you. Yeah, caricaturas.
Okay, so what I was saying, like, yeah, trying to remain curious about the people we work with, what we do every day, our users, and even ourselves. I think not assuming things about ourselves as well.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Hannah, even if you've been doing this thing for years, there's always new things to learn. It's like it's a never ending thing. So it's also balancing. I think for me, the key there is also balancing the sense of overwhelming is like I need to learn so much, and like shifting the narrative to like, ha, I didn't know I could do that. And that helps you, like, if you want to pursue that, then you can pursue that path. But if not, it's like it's like this old saying that I think my mom used to say, and I think mom used to say, like, you'll never go to sleep without learning something new. That's pretty much the way I see it.
Yeah, yeah, completely. It is true that sometimes it feels a bit overwhelming, especially when you teach or mentor. I'm a mentor at the UX writing school, and I feel like new students always doing something new, and they're also they really have this beginner mindset, and sometimes they will ask things that I may not be super familiar with, and there's this feeling of, oh my God, I have to keep up with everything. But yeah, in the end, it's also, I think, what you mentioned, like taking care of others, having this intuition, understanding what they need. And I think that also very important, or even more important when you're mentoring or working with other people. Maybe we could try and understand a little bit how, like in practice at your work, can you give us an example of having this beginner's mind led to like an outcome that was unpredictable or something that was, yeah.
Yeah. For example, so for years I've been using like different design software just to like try to write the content that I do within the mock-ups that we're designing rather than put it on somewhere else. And then I realized that it was getting to a point where it was just repetitive because I would just stayed at the part that I consider was like my part of the job, right? So like just like the writing of the strings or the microcopy within whatever we were designing, or if it was a wireframe or stuff like that, or I would just create some basic wireframes, right? And then just a few months back, I thought it was like, why don't I try to like even like design things? It might not be shipped ever, but if I start and I can like do the visual approach also, I can share my ideas much better with folks that tend to be much more that understand things visually more than just like me explaining or rambling or like sending a video or just a Figma file, right? And then I just realized like I know nothing about visual design. Is like I know I don't have the name for it, and I know a whole bunch of concepts just because like I've been working in like design industry for the past 15 years. So I know most of these things, but I didn't know I knew them. I don't know if that makes any sense. So like now that I'm actually discovering and pinpointing what these things are called and like how everything is connected, you go like, ha. So having those aha moments when you try to step away from your comfort zone, when you like take that leap, it could be a small leap or it could be a huge leap. It depends on each of us. When you step out of like that comfort zone of what you're used to doing, that's when you realize that the beginner mind kicks in, right? So it can go two paths, right? It can go like oh my god, this is like super overwhelming and like anxiety. I'm not gonna kid. Is like that's also a possibility if it's way too much. So you end up learning how to calibrate how big that step is, right? So like how you actually like bite enough that you can chew and not like have like a hamster face trying to eat all of that bread when it was way too much for you. So for me, it's like the way to actually embody this whole concept is like it's flexibility. It's not about even like keeping an open mind or like that should be a given, right? Especially if we all work in creative industries or creative adjacent industries. It's about being flexible. It's like the fact that you've been doing things for a way for like X amount of months, X amount of years, or with X amount of teams. that doesn't mean that tomorrow there might not be a new constraint and then you have to like figure something out, or that you simply discover that there's a quicker way of doing. So this is what I love. Like when you do something the same way and you do it all the time, and then someone comes up to you, is like, why are you doing it this way? It's like, do this and do that. And then you're like, oh my God, you just saved me like 20 minutes of my day. And it doesn't matter what it is. That for me is brilliant. So, and the beauty of this whole concept about like approaching work this way is like, it also applies to life. It's like, I don't know what you folks like to do outside work. And, but it could be whatever it is. If it's like art related or sport related, whatever that may be. Think about those moments when you've realized like, oh, sorry, give me 1 second.
No problem.
There we go. It's just the phone.
It's funny.
What was I
Is it
saying?
like a
Lost my
landline
train of thought.
phone? It's like,
Yeah, it's a landline. We have a landline. We have a landline because the kids don't have cell phones, so we have a landline. So in case anything happens, they can always call us. I can't take it right now. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
no worries. Sorry about that. As we say, el directo in Spanish. By the way, I didn't mention it at the beginning, but we're going to have 10 minutes at the end for questions. So if you have any questions, just save them for that.
Apologies about that, folks. It's just real life and having kids and no nanny today. So yeah, what I was saying is like, this is what happens, right? When you realize that I'm not saying better, I'm just saying a different way of doing what you normally do. That gives you that insight of like, how can I apply this to the rest of my life? I'm a huge fan of like systems thinking. And I think this applies, right? When you understand like, what are the small pieces that get together to make something different? And I used to have this manager that always used to tell me, like, you have to think about them as Lego bricks and not Jenga bricks, because when you're playing Jenga and you take that piece, there's always the potential of something's gonna fall. When you're playing with Legos, like you can mix and match and you can take off pieces and nothing will fall. So the beauty about thinking about these aha moments as a system is like, okay, so I learned this thing at work. Is that applicable to like another aspect of my life? Or I learned this thing while I was like playing the piano. Can I bring this back to work? So not, what I'm trying to say is like, having that beginner's mind is like not being obsessed of like, I need to learn something new every single day. But it's like, rather that when that happens, when you're in that flow state, when it comes, stop and think, it's like, can I reapply this somewhere else?
It's funny that you mentioned that and that you mentioned flexibility, because I've been a nomad for over 2 years, and something that I've had to learn is about flexibility. Because when you travel and you go somewhere new, there's nothing certain. And there's nothing exactly as you want or as you expect. And honestly, I've thought a few times that this has made me a better professional, because I'm more open to being more flexible and doing things differently, and also of things not being perfect and just going with the best that there is. We were actually discussing this in the past mastermind about what is the good enough version of our goal, and what if we go with the good enough for now so that we don't get blocked and we just start with something. What is your approach to good enough and perfect? Is this something that you usually apply to your craft?
Yeah, there's this like, it's a very cliche phrase, right? But like, done is better than perfect. And like, I do have to be like a disclaimer. It's like, I work in digital products, so we're able to cheat a little bit because job's never done, right? So it's better to do incremental small changes and like keep on advancing and advancing and advancing than trying to like wait and try to build the perfect thing and 6 months later try to ship it. It's going to be too late. So for me, this cadence of work has also allowed me to understand about flexibility, right? About how like sometimes doing smaller versions are not as good versions, or even like MVPs, the like the most viable, the least viable, most valuable product.
Minimal.
Minimum viable product. Thank you. Yes, I'm so bad with acronyms. So doing like these little pieces of work or these little chunks of work allows you to like get better with time. And if we translate this to like something completely different, for example, if like I took up running a few years back, right? So like I couldn't pretend to run a marathon, and I don't think I'll ever run a marathon because that's too much. But like you start by like, hey, let's run for 5 minutes, and like I was dying. And then 2 weeks later, I was running for like 10 minutes. So it's the same thing because either you sit on your butt and like go like, I'm not going to run because I can't run a marathon, or you go like, let's take it step by step. So work related wise, it should be the same. Is we can't be paralyzed by our own level of our own like level of quality bar, right? Because sometimes, and if you think about it, the pressure that we put on ourselves is way bigger than the pressure that actually is there outside. So for me, what's really been helpful to balance, to understand like what's that state where this is like good enough, is normally, especially like if you work in digital products, you have some metrics, you have some basics, you have it. Even like create a checklist, like it has to cover these are like the minimum things that we need to do to be able to like send this off to the world. And then next time you try a little bit more and 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 a little bit more. Because like life's not a test. You're not going to be tested on these things. Obviously, I'm not saying that like don't do your work. I'm just saying like be kind to yourself and realize that sometimes, and this is true, like the best that you can do is good enough. And you should be kind to yourself and make sure that next time you'll try to leave it a little bit more, right? So, and this also happens when like this whole work-life balance is, some days you'll spend a whole like hours on something, and then the next day, well, you can go for a walk. So it's how do you make sure that everything flows in that way that allows you to like actually last longer? Because it's basic math. If like you sprint or if you like work or if you churn, it's like you're gonna burn out. And like if you burn out, then recovering and coming back is really, really hard.
Yes. Actually, it's funny because yesterday I went to this talk, and the person was talking about, the movie Devil Wears Prada, and there's this character Miranda, it's like a toxic boss. And I asked a question regarding what you do when you are the Miranda of your own, like your own Miranda boss.
That's a good question.
And really help to yourself, right? Because I realize that sometimes, especially when you're starting a new project and you really want it to be perfect or as good as possible, and you're being really tough to yourself. So, it's not always easy to find, I think, that balance between what's good enough and being too lazy, or and I think it's important to have your own, you spoke about your own bar of quality, and I think it's important, obviously, to follow your own bar of quality, or your own, your own guide of what is good enough. And I think that comes with time and experience, I guess.
Exactly. Yep. That definitely comes with time and experiences, and again, making mistakes and realizing, and sometimes even burning out. But then you realize like, what's that level that I need, and what's that what are those metrics that you have to hit? Like, I don't know what you folks do for a living, but I'm sure that there's something that has to be measured in some way. Unless it's something for you, then go on out. But if it's something for someone else and something for your work, is like there's always some sort of like key metrics that you have to hit. So like use those as a base to like keep it factual, because sometimes in our heads we think about things that are way above, again, like what we have to cover. But if you have some facts that you can like link that work to, it'll make it easier to say like, okay, so yeah, this is good enough.
Let's maybe talk a little bit about your experience with Content Design España. Maybe you can tell us a bit, how did it started, and what is it now? Like how much it's grown?
Okay. I wish I could tell you this was a story of like something happy and like it's because like communities are awesome and everything, which is, but the origin of it is like actually a very sad thing. I was like, it started because I was angry and pissed and tired and sad and like burnt out. And I was like the only content designer at the company I was back then. This is 2000. So I started working as a UX writer in 2014. And then Content Design España started 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So that's 4 years after. It was just like one afternoon when I was like feeling all these feelings, and I was like, it can't be that I'm like the only person like struggling with this thing. It's like I need some sort of like network or support group, or like at least that we can go grab a beer and rant together, that with folks that understand my context and understand my pain points. Because yes, I did have other folks that I worked in with the design team, but like since I was the only one doing actually the content design, like they could empathize, but they didn't quite get the context. And for me, it came to a point where it was taking way too much energy to explain the context to later explain the problem. That I was like, you know what? I was like, I need to find folks. So I just started basically just going through Twitter and LinkedIn and like saying hi. Like, do you remember when you were a kid and you would like go to the park and say like, "Hi, my name is Mario. Do you want to be my friend?" Pretty much that, but in a grown up version. And like, "Hi, this is me. I work. This is what I'm doing. Is like I'm trying to like get people together to see if we can learn from each other, if we can help each other, and just like create some sort of network." Especially because back then the role here in Spain was like pretty much non-existent. So I was one of the few folks with like actually working on that. There were many folks working adjacent or like doing a lot of copywriting and like content design at the same time. So I wanted to figure out if there was a way to like band together and get something done, right? So I don't know. I think it took 6 months to like actually get folks together, and then we just met for beer in Barcelona, and there was like 30 of us, and we just started chatting and chatting, and we realized that we all had very similar problems. And the fact that meeting other people that, and this is very human, right? Meeting other people that like go through the same problems that you have, or have the same or similar situations that you have, makes you feel seen and makes you feel supported. So we thought, okay, so let's make something out of this. And that's where Content Design España started, right? So we created it started as a Slack group that later on became a meetup group. And then what we ended up doing is like every 2 or 3 months we would have like these meetups with folks at different offices across Barcelona to just come, and like we would get guest speakers, and then we would go from company to company, sort of like explain to the companies what was the value of having a content designer in them. And just it was great because at the beginning it was just pretty much content designers, and we would have project managers, we would have UX, UI, or we have product designers, we would have lead folks from folks from development. So the group started growing. I mean, the core people were still the same, but the reach and the impact that was having, at least across Barcelona, was very big. And then we just took it across Spain, and it's been going strong ever since. So what I think what I really learned about that is like figuring out, and then what we discovered, like basically this is how I met Hana, right? When you start creating these groups, these points of interaction start to appear. And when my network becomes Hana's network and vice versa, it's like we're here to help each other out. Of course, the job she does or the work she does is completely different from what I do. And like when she needs help, I'll help her. And when I've needed help, she's been there. It's like, and we're not close friends. It's like we haven't met each other, but like we know ourselves from the internet. I think we've seen each other once in our lives. But like having that point of contact, having that space, that safe space where we all come from like a similar background and we all kind of like suffer the same struggles, helps a lot to take that breath and realize that it, it can be okay. Because if Hannah has gone through a similar problem that I have, and she has a solution, and I'm not saying that I can just like plug and play that solution to whatever I'm going through, but I can learn from that, and vice versa. And when you create these communities that start from like, let's have this curiosity, right? Let's learn from each other. You see how people tend to be very kind with each other. Then from then on, like other things have spawned, like people that met there have like created teams and they've created businesses. So we've helped a whole bunch of people throughout the years to find jobs. So it's a a very nice way to give back. It's also super tiring because it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. But in the end, is I think it's the best way that we can help each other as a craft, at least here in Spain. And then we've seen other communities start building also in like other parts of Europe, and then that has also helped us to like intertwine between communities, because in the end is the goal of these communities across the continent is the same. It's like, how can we help each other? How can we help folks that have been laid off find a job? How can we help this person from France that's moving over to Spain to find a place to work? Things like that. So the beauty of local, especially like very basic, very local, very in-person groups, is like it's putting that human touch into a craft that sometimes tends to be so big that it's very hard to like embrace it all at the same time. So again, it takes us back to like chunking stuff bit by bit, right?
Yes, like one thing that I'm really amazed by this community, at least, is like the generosity. Like there's a lot of people asking for help, and there's always someone ready to jump in and help you. Like I've asked many times like questions that I had or problems, and there's always someone ready to help. And yeah, I think what we're trying to do with Confidently Creative as well is to change a bit the mindset of competition and make it more about collaboration and helping each other and being there for each other, and also growing by helping others grow. And I think that this kind of communities, and especially with Content Design España, you can see it like this. There's really like a transparency and an openness to help each other, and I think that's very refreshing. And in the end, it benefits everyone, right? So thank you, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, we have still a few minutes left, and maybe we could discuss also your side as a teacher, and how do you think this helps you be a better professional? Because at least for me, I can definitely tell that mentoring students helps me in my craft, and yeah, so I was curious to hear about your experience.
For me, it helps me learn every single time, because like I think that's the trick, right? People think that I'm teaching them when I'm actually learning from them sometimes also. So it keeps you fresh, and it also when you know things, or you've been working in a specific like industry for years, there's so much stuff that you just take for granted, or that you don't even process, because it's like it's part of the way you function. And when you're in front of people that are learning for the first time, especially like most of the classes that I give content design fundamentals for folks that are studying a master's degree in like UX UI or product design. So they've either never heard about content design at all, or like sometimes it's funny because at the beginning they'll say like, why are we learning to write if this is like a design master's? Like, chill, we'll get there, right? So it's a very humbling experience to like see that you think you have all of the experience and all of the knowledge, and you don't, because there's so much stuff out there. And it also helps you realize how much you actually understand from what you do, because if you're capable of taking complicated concepts and explaining it in a way that folks that have never heard of them, or like have never even thought of that, like for example, words were part of a design process, and they get it and they can like explain back to you, and you have like this open conversation, it makes a huge difference. And I always try to like not make my classes in a way that I'm the only one that I'm speaking. So I try to keep it in a way that's more of like whenever possible, right? Sort of like an open forum and a conversation, because I'll have my slides and I'll be talking through them. But the moment that people start asking questions, or like they make comments, or like they laugh, or like that, to me, it's the indicator that tells me that one, they're learning something, two, they're interested, and three, they're actually curious about what they're listening, what they're seeing. And from there, it's like, for me, it's you're putting like this little thought in the back of their heads, so when they actually start working, as product designers is like, hopefully they'll remember like, oh, you know what? Content is like part of the design process. Like this is something that I might not be the one doing it. I might be working with someone, or even if there's no content designers, like I might even have a go at it, right? So it's like it's my evil plan. Like how can I get into like the back of their heads so whenever they're doing the work, they remember this these like very basic concepts, right?
Well, thank you for doing that. Even now, now that content design is a well-known concept, at least, there's still a lot of people that, yeah, they don't value it so much. Just the other day, I don't know why, I don't know exactly how LinkedIn works and why some posts become viral and others don't, but some posts that I wrote about UX writing happen to be a bit viral. And this girl messaged me and she was like, oh, can you please tell me how I can move into UX writing? And I said, okay, what do you do for work? And she said, I'm a UX designer. I'm like, well, start at your job. And she said, no, but they told me that ChatGPT can do that, so they don't need it. And I was like, I can't believe it. No, I thought we were better with that. But there's still a lot of teaching and preaching that we have to do. I don't know what's your feeling about ChatGPT and all that.
I think it's something that we shouldn't be afraid of. It's something that we need to learn how to leverage. Because in the end, is I was listening to this talk from like the CEO of the company I work with at, sorry, and what he was saying is like the actually the programming language for this is like language, and who best positioned to understand how to program with language that folks that actually we use language as our day-to-day tool, right? So it's complex. I'm not saying no. And like once you start looking into the under the hood, it's like, whoa, okay. So that is like super complex, even especially if you don't have like a technical background, which is my case. But that's no excuse for me to like not dig in, right? So it's give yourself some time, give yourself some grace, but like learn how to use the tool and learn how to how that tool can do the basics for you, right? So I mean, why do you have to come up with like 10 different ways of writing this title when like the tool can do it for you? And that doesn't mean that you're not doing the work. That just means like you're learning how to use the tool to be much more efficient at it, what you do, right? It also is very helpful when you're trying to, or the way the use case that I've seen is like when you're trying to like create a presentation or create a case study, just like use it as a sounding board. That's also super useful because it'll help you edit. So it's a really good editor in that sense also. But what it will always be lacking, it's always going to be lacking your sense of humanity and that understanding of you have that you folks have of whatever is it that you do. That's still not there. So I think it's something that's here to stay. I don't know to like what capacity and if it's just going to be like ChatGPT or if it's going to, or other things are going to come. But I do say that that you need to get into it as much as you can, and learn how to leverage it to help you out with your day to day.
Thank you for your insight. Well, I don't think I have any more questions. Where I have a few more, but I think I want to open the floor for the people here. If you have any questions, you can just add them on the chat. Or you can speak up if you want to, but I'm sure, I don't know, there's a few content designers here, maybe they want to ask about their craft or about all the things that we've mentioned. I feel like I could write 10 different articles about everything that we've covered today, so many interesting points. Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone that has a question or I can continue.
I have a question for Mario, actually. What are you excited about in the future? And that can be like things that you want to learn or trends that you're seeing that you're excited to see how they play out.
Oh, that is a big question, Sophia. And first of all, hi, Sophia. Good to see you.
Hi.
What am I excited about? I'm excited about learning how to like actually use Figma to like design my own stuff. Like how to like really tap into like the visual side of design that I've like, I'm not gonna say neglected, but I haven't I haven't strengthened that muscle because I always work side by side with a product designer. So like that doesn't mean I'm not gonna keep on working with product designers, but like it's like when you get to a point where like I think I could do this at least at a very basic level to understand, and it's something that's completely new for me, and it's something that's completely out of my comfort zone. So I've been playing around with Figma just like a kid, like realizing, oh wow, you do this, it does that. Now I get it. So I'm learning about like grid systems and layouts and like kerning and all that stuff. That's what's exciting for me on what's to come. At a grand scheme of things, right now, like if I can be completely honest, like the world is kind of shitty, and pardon my French. At least from on the tech side, right? So we're seeing so many layoffs, so many companies restructuring everything. So to be honest, what I'm excited about, or what I would really wish is like that this stops and we go back to like some sort of like calm and like a point where people cannot be feeling that that layoffs are coming, or that that their job is in jeopardy, and like we can actually just like relax for a bit, because like we've come from like horrible years, and I think we just deserve as humans like a break to be able to like breathe and then figure out the rest. So
You're speaking
I
to
could
me
tell
directly. Yeah.
I could tell you
Yeah.
I'm excited about like let's see what AI brings. If they actually do that switch, so it's not about taking people's jobs away, but rather like helping the rest of us do more things. For example, if we can start creating images that will help us encompass, that should empower folks that like want to create their own brands. That's what I would normally say. But like for real, is like I need a break first. Once I have that break, I'll be able to like think about that thing.
That makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's the answer that you were looking for, but that's what I'm feeling right now.
I wasn't looking for anything specific, so this is good. Yeah. I return to like psychological safety, I think is
Yes,
a good foundation
yes,
for creative work.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like exactly, because when you are at a space where your head and your mind is at peace, that's when you can do your best work.
Mhm.
Like it's whoever tells you like crunch time, or like being stressed, or like putting stuff in the last minute, that's bullshit. Like it's impossible. Like your body and your brain can, and that's not me saying, that's like just scientific facts. Is like if you're tired, it's like you can't perform. And if your body's tired, then your mind can't do it. And if your mind is racing and tired because you're not sleeping, then your body's not gonna follow. So peace and quiet. That's what I want for all of us.
Thank you, Sophia, for your question, and thank you, Mario, for your input. Definitely, psychological safety is a great foundation for creativity. We also have a question from Chris. He says that as someone who's looking for the first job in content design in Spain, I see a lot of jobs that are asking for a content designer as opposed to a UX writer. Is there an overlap of the two, and how best can a newbie demonstrate the holistic aspects of content design? Chris is an excellent ex-student of mine, so I hope you get a job soon.
That's actually a very good question, Chris. So you're not gonna like my answer. It depends, because like since we're a very young craft, we still don't have our naming right, which is ironic because like that's one of the things we do, but it is what it is. So depends, and I mean that because UX writer and content designer tend to be used interchangeably. So it depends on like what company you're going for, or it depends on like how the design team have that structured. So if you ask people like Christina Halverson and like Sarah Richards and stuff like that, there's like levels to it, right? So you have content strategy, which is like the major, like the biggest umbrella. Then you have like content design, which is more of like a strategy level. And then they'll tell you like UX writing is more like the technical level of content design, right? That's what like the big people in design say. Now, it depends on the job you're applying. Most of the jobs, if they say content design, they mean UX writer, and vice versa. What you have to be able to show them is like, one, you're able to actually do the writing, but that's the last bit. But how are you capable of using UX design principles and apply them to the work you do with words, right? Because in the end, is we're using pretty much the same patterns and the same theoretical principles that they use in design. Just instead of pixels, we use words. And I know that's an oversimplification of the things. But if you're capable of explaining what your rationale is and articulating like those design decisions, because when people see your portfolio can be beautiful, but you also have to be able to explain how you got from point A to point B, right? So the more you can talk about your process, the better, because that's how, and this is something I always tell like my students and like people that I interview is like, what I see on the page is can be really nice, can be brilliant, but I can't read minds. So I need you to tell me how'd you got to that? What was the process to get to that? And if you can connect that to like even early sketches and things like that, it's even better, because that tells me that whatever I put in front of you, whatever other problems that I want you to solve, you'll be able to do it because you can share with me your thought process. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that I always try to stress, is how important it is to show why you made a decision, right? Because
Yes.
it's not about using one word or another. It's about, okay, helping someone perform a job or a task or whatever.
Exactly.
So why is it helping them better, right? So
yeah, and always have a look at that. Oh, sorry, Hannah, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please finish.
go on,
Sometimes
go on.
like when I get excited, I just like start talking. Yeah, look at the job description, because that'll give you a whole bunch of insights of like how content is treated in the company. And it also depends at what point you are in life. Sometimes you just have to take the job because you have to take the job, and I totally get that, and I totally respect that. But if you're at a point in your career where you can actually decide, the job description will give you a lot of insight on like how content is treated. So if you have the luxury of making a choice, try to figure out a place where like they know what they're talking about or at least on paper, they understand what the value of content is, because that makes a huge difference to like going someplace or the other. Because you don't want to end up in a place where like you'll be left alone in a corner and trying to figure everything out at the same time, to somewhere where like you might be alone also. Yes, I'm not saying no, but at least they understand what is it they hired you for. So it's already the job is already complex enough to like, on top of that, you have to be like explaining and re-explaining to everybody why is it that what you do matters, right? So yeah.
Definitely, that makes things much harder. I think one of the worst feelings is when you don't feel appreciated, or people don't understand the value that you're bringing, and yeah, it's really tough. So, yeah, if you can,
Yeah, it's like we're
yeah,
definitely
feedback,
like we're humans. We want to be seen, Hannah. It's like that's part of like working with other folks, right?
definitely. Is there any other question? Someone else? No. Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming today to our first success story. It's been a real pleasure. There's so many interesting points that we have covered. I would stay and keep talking to you for hours, but I guess we all have things to do. Maybe feed taco or watch caricaturas with your kids, or whatever you're doing. Finish work, some of you.
I need to cook dinner now.
Are you a good chef?
No, I'm the worst, but I got an air fryer, and that just saves my butt every time.
Okay. I've been
Again, use the tools. Use the tools.
I've been in Mexico for over a year and a half, and I don't know how to cook. I mean, like one of my goals this year is to learn how to cook some mole or something, because I of not being able to cook anything. I'm just gonna drop some links in the chat in case you wanna follow up or follow Mario or join our community.
Yes, I'm gonna share. Let me see, because I don't want to forget. So yes, and if not, you can take a screenshot of that. That includes the community that has my LinkedIn. I think that's the easiest way if you folks want to reach out, and your Patreon. Join this lovely community that is confidentially creative. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Hannah, and thank you, Confidentially Creative, for having me.
Thank you. See you in the next one next month. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.